Welcome to Wing Academy Video, an extension of Wing Academy of Unfoldment. I'm your host, Diane Wing, and my show focuses on how to use spiritual concepts in the real world. We will address issues related to the mind, body, and spirit, discover how to release what holds us back, and ways to come into our power. Learn more at DianeWing.com. Today, my special guest is Richard Ashworth, author of I Talk to the Animals, a definitive guide to the 4 pillars of destiny. He's probably best known for introducing authentic Chinese Imperial Feng Shui to BBC TV's Housebusters and for his book, The Feng Shui Diaries. Respected widely for his innovative approach to classical Ba Zi and Feng Shui, many professionals have studied with him. Richard himself studied with a series of masters over a period of decades, including attending Huazhong University, I hope I'm saying that correctly, in central
Huazhong.
China.
It's a je. Huazhong, not that it matters.
Okay. His direct, authoritative, and humorous approach has changed lives for the better from Poland to New Zealand. He also teaches Feng Shui, Ba Zi, and the Book of Changes one-to-one online to long-term students and professionals from Seattle to Milan. His aim, he says, is to leave people happier, healthier, and more abundant than he found them, and to pass on those skills. For more information, go to ImperialFengShui.info, and I will post that in the show description also. Welcome, Richard.
Great. Thank you.
And I am going to share the page for your website. This is his website, and he's got all kinds of great information on here, services and what the Ba Zi is, and online courses. And also, the book that I mentioned where is it? The book that I mentioned is I Talk to the Animals, and it's available on Amazon and wherever books are sold, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's on that link, there's actually, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it says read sample. There are about 20 or 30 pages from it there, so you get an idea of what it's all about.
Okay, great.
There's
Great.
the cover there by the brilliant Ellie Spinelli, who does artwork for me on social media, which they kind of she has a wit that is very unusual, the way she draws those animals.
Yeah, that's a very cool picture. And there's me,
Oh,
the pig.
yes, there's you right at the front. I don't know how you got there. She obviously likes pigs.
So you would think that I Talk to the Animals is about animal communication, but it's not. It's about the Chinese horoscope, the Chinese astrology. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's about the Ba Zi, 4 pillars of destiny, it is often referred to as, um, which is a snapshot of a moment in time. It's an assessment, if you like, of the the prevailing elements, the Chinese elements at any given moment. The Chinese elements being wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and they move cyclically. So there is a unique stamp the moment that we are born. I mean, and any date can be converted into 4 pillars. Why 4 pillars? Well, a pillar consists of one Chinese character on top of another, what's called a stem on top of what's called a branch. What's called the branch is actually the animal. So this year, for instance, is a wood snake year. The snake is the branch, and the wood is the kind of moderator because there are 5 different snakes. There's an earth snake and a metal snake, and so on and so forth. But every moment has a pillar for the year, for the month, for the day, and the hour, an additional thing called a life house as well, a kind of an overview. Um, and each one of those will say something specific about us. So um, Since they arrive cyclically, we can run a Ba Zi forwards or backwards to get some idea of what happened before and to get some idea of where things are going. So it can illustrate, it can identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, mistakes, and particularly points where we come to crossroads. And one of the most powerful uses of the Ba Zi is to find moments where we made decisions because we are decision-making animals. I'm told we make 10,000 decisions a day. I don't know who counted them, but we make lots of decisions all the time, and we go unconscious on them. And a Ba Zi will tend to find the moment that we made particular decisions, and sometimes we turn left when we should have gone straight ahead, or straight ahead when we should have turned right. And we can go back, and if we can't actually change it in terms of what it is, which is sometimes possible, we can certainly change its meaning. And Abazi particularly has, as one of my teachers said, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. So,
I love that.
so do
Oh my
I.
God, I love that because so many people are kind of stuck in the past and don't know how to shift that energy. And
Yeah,
this is much more in depth than, like, folks, if you've ever done your Chinese astrology and said, "Oh, I'm a whatever animal because of the year," it's so much more nuanced than that. There are so many more layers to this, and this is what your expertise is in. And also feng shui, people think it's only for your space, right? And it's beyond that.
well, this is feng shui of time, if you like, as opposed to feng shui of space. And
Okay.
each of the pillars has a function. And of course, since there are 5 elements and 12 animals, there are 60 different pillars. But just as in Western astrology, it's ridiculous to say there are only 12 different kinds of people. There are a lot more than 60 different kinds of people as well. But the way there is a pillar for each of year, month, day, and hour means that your Ba Zi is very close to unique. In fact, with its location, it will be actually unique. And it tells us
Ah,
a load.
right. No, I love that. Because again, for years I've just been looking at the year. And
Yeah,
it's really like, and and Western astrology, I mean, that also has a lot of layers.
yeah.
And so I'm glad to hear that in the Chinese system, it goes far beyond what I even realized. So so describe the four pillars, and they're in order, right? There's an order to them that you put in priority, right?
That's lovely. That's a really perceptive question. Thank you. The year pillar does a lot of heavy lifting. So we will tend to know the year pillar of people. We know that Donald Trump is a fire dog, for instance, and Prince William is a water dog, for instance. I mean, not that there's necessarily a connection in that. So the year does a lot of heavy lifting. It will be to do with physicality, the immediate, what's public, which is why it can be useful for celebrities because it will tell you what they want you to know. So, but it's the year pillar is about the deepest history. So it will deal with your DNA, family patterns, family history, parents, grandparents, so on and so forth. So it's very useful in looking at one's relationship with one's heritage. So in the case of your Ba Zi, which I think we're going to come on to, your day stem is very interesting relative to your year stem. In other words, the pillar of the year and the pillar of the day, the relationship between them is meaningful. It suggests that you took on your mother's characteristics but multiplied them many times over. So I would guess that your mother has some of the magic that you have.
Ah, okay. Well,
And
and my mother's family, like as far as writing, her father wrote. It was he authored several things, and yeah, that's interesting.
so
And
that,
she's artistic, like she's an interior designer.
yeah, well, the year pillar says about family. So the stem will relate to the same gender parent, and the animal will refer to the opposite gender parent. So you are a pig, and you have two pigs in your Ba Zi in actual fact, but the pig is your father, And that, I mean, pigs get a bad press. But the pig is a sweetheart. The pig gets on. The pig is not often not very good at receiving advice, not very good at asking for help. And that for pigs, particularly, what you need to do, and we've gone into a separate thing here, but I'll get back to the other pillars in a sec. But I mean, in your particular case, it's important that you have a support structure because you look so competent, and people will go, Diane's got it handled, you don't have to worry about her. And then you do. And you need someone who is there with a lifeboat. There's actually a poem by an English poet called Stevie Smith, who's a woman, Stephanie Smith, which is called Not Waving But Drowning, which is taught in English exams in the UK. And it's of someone who's gone out of their depth. And they're going like this. Are they waving? Or are they drowning? And pigs are like that. You have to be ready when they need to be saved. Anyway, the year pillar will be about family patterns and your deepest history. The month pillar will be about the work environment, education, exes, and siblings. So the use of a Ba Zi, say for the first case, it will tend to tell you about family patterns, and heartbreaks are often very related to family patterns, as are
Mm.
potentials. But a month will tend to tell you how you would be best working, what you'd be best doing. It will suggest by comparing it with some of the other characters whether what you're doing is satisfying and whether something else might be easier. Um, and it will so when that character appears in the calendar, then we can expect the involvement of exes, siblings, and so on and so forth. So one of the ways we use these things is to see when they appear in the calendar. Um, the day pillar is very much who you are. So the day stem, the specific moment day on which you were born, will tell me very much about you. So your day pillar is an earth horse, which is someone who achieves through hard work, but it's someone who breaks through after a long time. You're likely to be and have been a late bloomer. Your first 3 decades will not have been that successful. You suddenly will have got into your stride. Probably, I've written here, hit stride in the 30s. So your day pillar will tell me those kinds of things, and your day branch is an important one because it's your true love. So in this case, you are earth, and your husband is fire, which means very supportive. It means he's right there for you. And your
Yes, he
hour
is.
Your owl pillar is about your deepest dreams and your children. And for very often for people, that's exactly the same thing, the things they possibly don't share. And I also draft what's called a life house that not all Chinese masters draft, which is the voice that calls to you. It's like the one that's giving you advice. And you have to decide whether it's useful or not, because it may be saying, you know what, you should be doing something different. But it may be like that joke about, how many actors does it take to change a light bulb? Have you heard that one?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
only one, but
One.
need to be nine more to say that should be me up there. Maybe maybe you have to be careful whether you listen to it. But every Ba Zi is unique, and there are 1,000 different ways that you can look at and analyze it and see moments of choice, types of potential, types of opportunity when things are liable to emerge. And people, typically, people will ask me about money, health, and relationship. That's probably the wrong way around. I mean, I imagine in your work, I imagine you're dealing with relationship fundamentally all the time. Am I right?
Um, it's more like blocks to progress in my practice, in my coaching practice. I mean, sometimes the block is a relationship, but
Yeah.
whatever the block may be, like whether it's self-doubt or internally or externally, circumstantial or relationship. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And there's a part of the Ba Zi which is called the big fate, sometimes called the luck pillars. And we were talking earlier about the tendency to treat these things as a mechanical thing. They are not. I mean, they are. When I came across it, I realized that what I was seeing was the most powerful healing model I'd ever come across. And whether we're talking, you know, mental health, of which there is a crisis at this moment, on both sides of the Atlantic and, all generations, I think, or whether we're talking performance enhancement, the Ba Zi can be incredibly helpful in that, in terms of finding out where someone is blocked and when they made a decision. And the big fate, which kicks in at the moment a person arrives, which is not necessarily birth. It may be sometime between birth and perhaps as late as 10 years old, but a point where they make a decision. And very often, not always, but very often, that's a limiting decision. So there's actually a point. Sometimes it's very precise, and sometimes it's not so much because it's a decision. And those things tend to be a little fluid. But there's a point very often where we make a decision that's something like, I'm not all right, or the world is
Mm,
screwed. And sometimes the first one that kicks in maybe at three or four or five or six says, I'm not all right, because something has happened in our lives, like our parents separated, or somebody died, or there was a huge business setback, or something like that. And we can go back to that and we can examine what decisions were made. Sometimes you can change it
mm.
fundamentally, but you can always change its meaning. So the big fate is a really crucial part of it. We can look at this, examine how healthy decisions were.
I love that because yes, we're all about our choices.
Yeah.
And then if we realize the decision I made or whatever happens, that could turn into regret. But also I want to mention that all of this information is wonderful to have, and we still have free will, and
Yes.
we can take it or leave it. And if you feel in your soul that the information is right, it's right for you, it gives you good guidance, go with it. If it doesn't feel good to you, then there's something that either needs to be tweaked, or you want to go in a different direction. But none of this is written in stone, people.
That's a really important proviso. Really, really important. Because um, we always have choice. We always have choice, and no astrological analysis, not Western, not Chinese, will do you full justice. Um, and the purpose of isolating these moments is to give us opportunities to have choice. It is not about. I mean, there are long conversations in Chinese astrological communities about fate and destiny. It is not. There's no contradiction to say there may be fate, there may be destiny. I'm kind of agnostic about that, but there is always choice. Always choice. We are in charge of our own lives. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
That chime for you?
Yes. I mean, in every type of reading, in every type of information, I mean, even in personality tests, a lot of things can be transitional. Like you may take it and you get this result when you're younger, and then you're older and you have all this experience, and now it comes out differently. Um, I believe that the readings and everything else, maybe not with the Ba Zi, because there are things that happen. You're taking the date of birth, the time of birth, and all that kind of stuff. And just like Western astrology does, but there's like a progress chart. So things keep changing, things keep evolving, right? Is that true also for the Ba Zi?
Absolutely, absolutely true. But I think also on one level, the Bazi is simply a divinatory tool. And what a diviner is using is whatever information is to hand to see what's going on, behind the veil, if you like. It is accessing information that is not available logically, not available by way of conscious, rational thought. And the Bazi is just one way to do it. It just happens that I fell in love with it 25 years ago. I mean, I know people who do amazing work looking at clouds and fires, and
That's the perfect description of all divination. It really is. Um, yeah. because we tell people the things that they can't see for themselves.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's coming from an analysis on it, depending on the tool. But then it's also coming in, I call them divine downloads. You know, like tell me what they need to know in order for their highest good, in order for them to grow and learn and get to where they ultimately want to be. And so, yeah, the tool is a trigger as far as I'm concerned.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there are once you have concluded that the universe is talking to us all the time, then there are many, many ways to access it. There's a story I tell of when the Brexit vote was happening in this country.
Mm.
I try to watch out for these things. Sometimes it will be just a kind of murmur I hear, literally hear, just someone saying a word, or it may be the banner headline on a newspaper, or it may be a piece of music, or it may be a feeling I get. It may be any number of things. Sometimes it's number plates. And number plates
Ah.
you have to be really careful with because it's easy to cheat the system, isn't it? You can say, I don't like that one, I do like this one. But on whatever it was, June 23rd, was it 2016? Sheila, my wife and I got into the car foolishly at 7:45 in the morning, just in time to hit the school run. So we wanted to get to the polling booth. It took us 40 minutes to get there. We were behind the car all the way that I should be careful with the number plate because it's a real number plate. But the number plate had the Chinese word "bu," which means not, the Chinese word "gua," which means hexagram, and the number 8. Hexagram 8 is union, so it was saying no union. Hexagram 8, no union. And I looked at Sheila and I said, "This is not looking good," and that was how it turned out. But divination is like that. Ba Zi is a very complicated version of that. It also means, as you must know, if you kind of get lost, you've got a base you can come back to. You can say this tends to mean this. The relationship between this element and that element is this. Um, and so when people come back to me, I can actually look at my notes because I usually forget what I've said. Don't you find that?
Yes, absolutely, because it's not for us.
Yeah,
It's for the like we're just the channel of the information and then it goes.
yeah,
Because I, like you said, I have people go, oh, remember when you told me XYZ? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
yeah,
It wasn't for me.
yeah,
Um, but yes, with numbers, and you're right, the universe is always talking to us if we pay attention. And the more you use it, the more instinctively intuitive you are, the more you're open to hearing. And it's
yes.
not just the symbols or whatever that are coming from the outside. You can also hear it within.
You can feel it.
You can
I mean,
feel it.
the underlying kind of philosophical thing of this is what's called the Tao, which I'm sure you've come across, which means the way. I'm sure your husband will be very familiar with it. Um, and we know the Tao. It's that moment maybe at a dinner party where you've got something clever to say, and you know that if you say it too early, it'll probably fall flat, and if you say it too late, the bus will have passed. And we know when to do things. We do naturally know it. And it is just a question of taking a moment to go, you know what? I need to feel into this. Is this right? Is this timing right? Is this action right? Because we always know. And Debazi is kind of like an expansion of that idea.
Yes, when you mentioned that it includes ideal timing, I call it divine timing because nothing's going to happen before it's supposed to. And when it's the right thing, it flows. It just feels right. And if
Yeah.
you try to go against the flow, it's going to be a hard swim upstream.
And it's subtle also because swimming against the tide doesn't work. But sometimes you're supposed to swim against the tide because it's taking you somewhere else. I mean, it's like there is this idea within the world of woo-woo, New Age, whatever the word is. There are people talk about going with the flow, with trusting the process. They're talking about the Tao, And what Lao Tzu, who is the guy who wrote the Tao Te Ching, which is the handbook of Tao, if you like, said that he wrote, I mean, probably several people actually, that the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So as soon as you think you pinned it down, whatever it is, because we think we know how things happen, and we wish we did. We're looking for knowing how things happen all the time. We want
We
rules.
don't know anything. I don't I don't care how long we study this stuff. I don't care how long we look at human behavior. There's always a twist. And the universe is like, the thing is we can see a piece of it, but we can't see the broader context. And we don't know what else it's impacting. And so we can only like control, I think it is an illusion.
Yeah, I think control is virtually impossible. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a Ba Zi is an attempt to second guess the Tao, which is impossible, except that it's not impossible. And people often think that the Tao is the open door or the downward slope. It's not necessarily the open door, and it's not necessarily not the locked door. And it has to be dealt with in the moment because there are no rules ultimately. So the Ba Zi is an attempt to kind of pin that down. So there's this interplay between the structure of it, which is bound by rules. I trained classically with Chinese masters. I went to university briefly, only briefly, and did a term in China. But it's an interaction with what Chinese would call qing, which is affection. It means giving a damn. So you approach this information. I hope this is resonating with what you do. You approach this information from the standpoint, I care about this person. How can I help? And then it starts to
Yes.
tell you. So
Yes. We look for purpose and um being in high service, I think is the general purpose that we came in with. It's just a matter of, okay, given our individual gifts and our personalities and all kinds of factors like that, how are we expressing that high service? It's a very individual expression, but I think it's we're all expressing part of the Tao, all the aspects, even the pantheon of like the angels and all these things they're all representing energies that are available to us,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
and so how we use it, how we experience those energies is what these tools allow us to do.
yeah. And I hear you very honestly kind of stumbling over what you say next because you don't know. He's like, how far can I, how much do I actually know? And the answer is, I could possibly see the next step and then maybe the next step. I mean, I love the honesty of where you speak.
Thank you. Yeah. um we have no idea. What's that phrase, we make a plan and God laughs, or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah. Look, there are the three Chinese curses, as may you live in interesting times. Uh, may you be presented to important people, and may your wishes come true. Those are all curses.
Wow, that's interesting because that could go any number of ways. And
Yes, it
then
could.
times when we wish for a certain thing to happen in a certain way, and that's fruitless, like, the specificity of it is is not going to work. Um,
Generally fruitless.
di-
Almost always. Generally fruitless. It's like I will hold back from absolutes because I don't know.
yes.
You understand what I'm saying? So yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So
But
we think we know how things happen, and we can get in touch with what outcome we prefer.
mhm.
We can get in touch with the flow, but actually the structure of the magic that your work and mine can do, if you'll bear with me, is to be absolutely honest about what is so, which is often an emotional thing. How do I feel? What do I really, what's really going on here? And then what do I actually want? And that feeling of actual genuine wanting is very often a tying into a certainty, a knowledge of what's coming. But it's those two processes which are this what I'm saying probably a bit hard to follow, isn't it? It's probably a bit obscure. But what I'm saying is I think I'm agreeing with you in the sense that there is control is very, very limited.
Yeah.
Broadly, we know what we want, we know where we are. If we can be truthful with that, we can get out of the way of thinking we know how to make things happen. Because for the most part, we don't.
Right. And I've had many times when things went wrong, which it's not wrong. It's, I look at it as it was necessary, whatever the circumstance that popped up. And it turned out better
Yes.
than you anticipated. Like some
Yeah.
people, oh, I didn't get the job. Well, maybe there was a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's something else better for you that you
Yeah.
don't even know about right now.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, all of this is in the book, folks. He goes into great detail about each sign and calculating, and so if you're interested in this, getting the book is going to go a long way for you. Um, but also he teaches one-on-one, so you can also get lessons from the master. Uh, if you'd like, and people can contact you through your website, or is that the best
Yeah.
way?
Yeah. I'm on Facebook, Feng Shui Diaries on Facebook. That's my tag there. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Substack. I'm not on X. I'm on Blue Sky. Um, I think that's it. And obviously they can email me as well. I'm Richard Ashworth Feng Shui at gmail.com. Richard Ashworth Feng Shui, all one word. Pretty easy to remember. But I mean, I Talk to the Animals is essentially an instruction booklet. And if you read it carefully, you will be able to draft a Chinese horoscope and you'll have all the tools to interpret it. That does not mean you're a master. That's where it starts. But you've got all my contact details, so I will enter into correspondence if you get stuck or you want some guidance or whatever, or something's missing. All my contact details are in the book.
That's perfect. And I love the point that you're not a master. You read the book and then you read it again, you read it again, you put it into practice over and over and over. It's like when I hear, oh, become a powerful, Reiki master in 48 hours. Like it's not going to happen. Nothing, you can't master anything in 48 hours. You just can't. And sometimes never. And that those are the things worth pursuing, I think. The things that take time and effort and like study and going deeper and that excitement that builds, and then you learn all this stuff enough that you can disagree with maybe somebody else who might be studying it, but
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
never completely know.
But the process of learning is a very satisfying thing. I mean, I think who am I to say what the purpose of life is? But I mean, it seems to me that learning is in there somewhere.
Oh, without a doubt. There was a an exercise I saw. Where would you rather be stuck if it was for eternity? Would you rather be in a zoo or the library? It's like, oh, for me, and I love animals, the library, hands down, probably with my dog though with me.
What was it W.C. Fields who had on his headstone of his grave? All in all, I'd sooner be in Philadelphia. Isn't that right? Did he say that? I think it
Did
was.
he?
It's very rude. Yeah, I think it's Philadelphia. It might have been
Ah,
Pittsburgh. It wasn't. It was not meant to be complimentary anyway. But yeah, I mean, the Bazi is a divinatory tool. It's also mechanical, but it is joined by this thing of Qing, of caring, and it has the possibility of isolating, identifying moments of choice, moments of heartbreak, and then of mending that heartbreak. I mean, the Ba Zi, if you ask me why I do Ba Zi, it's to return people to factory settings, to bring them back to their center. That's what a Ba Zi is for centrally. So, whatever heartbreak there is there, my purpose is to mend heartbreak and make dreams come true. I, don't always succeed in both 100%, but that is what a Ba Zi on a good day will do.
Can you talk a little more before we go? Because I know we're at the end here, but can you talk a little more about what you referenced that you can change the energy of your childhood? Like, how does this help? What method can folks use to do that? Because there's a lot of trauma out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have studied with a lot of strange people over a very long period of time. I've been exclusively Chinese stuff since the mid 90s, but I pick up a number of things along the way. But to answer your question directly, the moment of the big fate will be a moment of a decision, and it will be a around a big psychological event, not necessarily a trauma, but very often is a trauma. So if we find someone who, at this point, for instance, I was working with a lady this morning, whose father had died, and whose mother has moved in with them, and it's all a bit claustrophobic. And what we're doing is going back to the point where her relationship broke down with her mother. Now, it wasn't in her 60s; it was when she was about 5, and we can go back to that point, and we can not look at how things went wrong, but look at how things went right. And the bottom line, this may sound 1967 hippy dippy stuff, but the bottom line is love. And however she's fallen out with her mother in the interim, I know, speaking as a father of 6 kids, you cannot help but love your kids. It's as simple as that. So we go back to this point, and there are a variety of ways of changing the decision about it. You change the decision now, it changes everything way down the line 60 years later. Everything.
That makes so
Something
much sense.
it is extraordinarily powerful. So I have a number of tracks to do that. There are other Chinese models that I can then go into. There's what's called Qimendunjia, which is a probably the cutting edge of Chinese divination, which is both more complicated and more intuitive. But bottom line is these things can be healed. Healing is always available. It is never too late to have a happy childhood. Never too late to mend.
Love it. Love it. And on that note, thank you so much for being here. Richard's website is ImperialFengShui.info, and check it out and get the book.
The book
And
is I talk to the animals, and you can get a sample if you Google that, you get a sample for Amazon. You can read a bit of it, and you can pre-order it. The best date to pre-order it is the 3rd of October, but you know, I'll leave you to make up your own minds. So I do
perfect.
hope some of you'll buy it.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.